Ciao, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. 3 new recipe ideas that are quick and easy wintertime meals. A lot of different tips and tricks and kind of concepts for when it comes to building meals and thinking about meals that I wanted to share in this video. Everything I share, everything I talk about, all the recipes that I create for you guys, it's really just inspiration for the Mediterranean lifestyle. Take it with a grain of salt, make it your own. That's modern Mediterranean living. Everything that I share and kind of curating it for your life. So we have 3 delicious Mediterranean diet recipes today that are more protein packed, kind of focus on the protein, that are quick and easy for a great meal. And you can decide whether you have some carbs already left over or vegetables already left over to throw it in there, or make a quick side to go with it. I will talk about so many variations throughout the entire recipe video, like I try my best to do in every video, and just share the ways you can change it for your preferences, your diet needs. I always try to make my recipes as flexible as possible. Hopping into the 3 different types of recipes today. So we're going to start off with a concept called agrodolce, which is the Italian concept of something agro and dolce, sour and sweet. It's going to be kind of a sauce slash chutney slash salsa situation. I'm using almond, orange, and cherries today in a beautiful vinegary, orangey, honey, olive oil sauce with a little bit of salty olives, and that way you can top it off on any of your proteins. And I'm going to pair that with some scallops. Seafood is huge in the Mediterranean diet, and recipe number 2 is going to be for my family that is gluten-free, dairy-free, and all the things. So it's going to be these beans and this beautiful walnutty, chestnutty, rosemary flour, and I'm going to dredge the beans and bake them off so they get nice and breaded and crispy. And then I have a beautiful dairy-free sage walnut pesto, very creamy and the perfect thing to dip those delicious beans into. And the final recipe is going to be a vegetarian take on a really quick and easy meal. I made a beautiful infused spicy saffron oil, ginger saffron oil, and then you have this flavor bomb oil that you can put on anything. And you're gonna see today that we're kind of making a protein packed vegetarian salad because spinach is so loaded with protein. So on top of that spinach, you have this beautiful oil, and then I'm also marinated sweet potatoes in that oil, and then you just roast them off, add a little bit of roasting cheese. And what I mean by that is halloumi. Halloumi is my favorite, but there's a couple other cheeses that are great for roasting and that get like a crispy exterior, and they're so packed full of protein. So I think it's finally time to stop talking and start cooking. It's been a really long day so far. A few things broke on the way here, and just had like a handful of mistakes this morning. So might as well enjoy myself, relax in the kitchen, pour myself a glass of wine. It is the Mediterranean lifestyle. So let's get started on recipe number 1. Chin chin. So for recipe number 1, we're working with an agrodolce, also seafood. Scallops, you don't have to use those. Squid is really inexpensive. Shrimp, could do kind of just a seafood blend sometimes they sell, which is kind of a cheaper way of doing it. But I just really advocate for seafood. I think it is so good for us. This is one of the reasons why Mediterranean diet is so good for you, and there's so much longevity, and there's just so much sustainable goodness to it, all the things. And I know that it's kind of intimidating to make seafood at home because it can get rubbery. It makes your kitchen smell. It's gonna smell like Nonna's kitchen. I don't know what else to tell you. Sometimes you just have to like just accept smelly things and just know that it's worth it. So we're gonna talk about the agrodolce. I made a very Carolinized version of agrodolce. Agrodolce is really just vinegar and honey or something sweet, sour and sweet. So I made a whole entire kind of liquid dressing that literally you could stop here and just make like a salad dressing. And so what is in this is lots of orange juice, some pumpkin vinegar. Do not need pumpkin vinegar. I took the bait at Trader Joe's and bought the pumpkin vinegar because it looked really fun and it was beautiful. You can use apple cider vinegar, red wine vinegar, any vinegar really. Champagne vinegar would be delicious in here. And I didn't want to just do vinegar because I wanted a more depth of acid in here, so I also did that orange juice, and it just pairs so well together with a beautiful olive oil and then some honey. I actually used maple syrup because my honey was crystallized. Don't tell anyone, I'm keeping honey in the recipe. And this is like a beautiful salad dressing. You could stop there, but I thought I'd make this more fun than that. So on the other end of this, I also have some chopped cherries for something sweet, some beautiful toasted almonds, because cherries and almonds and oranges, so many things remind me of Italy, but let me tell you, orange, cherry, and almond, when those 3 are put together, something about it just is like bursting Italy in my mouth. It's so, so good, so good. If you don't want to use cherries, you could use dried cranberries. You could use raisins. Raisins are probably the most popular thing, especially in Sicily. When you see an agrodolce, they use golden raisins. You could also use figs, dates, any of your dried fruits that you love. Kind of whatever maybe you have in your pantry you'd like to use up of dried fruits. And then some toasted nuts. Toast them because they just add so much flavor when you toast those nuts. And I added all the zest of the orange in here with the cranberries and almonds just to infuse a little bit more flavor. So now I'm gonna shake up all this yummy goodness liquid and I'm going to pour it over this nut and cherry fruit mixture to plump up these cherries and kind of soak them in this. Oh yeah, perfect. You'll have a little bit left over because I'm awesome like that and I love to give you even more than you need, because now you have salad dressings. Like I said, you can marinate any of your meals with this. You could toss it on a bunch of vegetables and roast them. You can pour it on top of your grain bowls. You can make a bowl of rice and lentils and use this. Like anywhere you feel like you need some liquidy, delicious flavor, prepped, ready to go. And then the other aspect here, so I would give it like an hour at room temperature when you make it, and then you can store it in the fridge for up to probably, you don't want the almonds to get too soggy, so I would say maybe 3-4 days, a week or so you could have this agrodolce. And now you have basically just a salad dressing plus almonds and cherries, so you literally have like just flavor, just so much flavor, texture, just goodness. Except I forgot one thing. Olives. So I have some Sicilian olives that I'm actually gonna also add into the mix because I wanted something chewy too to go along with those cherries. Something salty to bring home the savoriness of this dish, because I feel like I don't wanna make it too sweet. So the salty, briny olives. I'm taking a riff off of something Sicilian, so I wanted to keep those olives because I love olives. You probably have a jar of olives in your fridge and you're like, what am I supposed to do with these? I've used a little bit, I'd like to use more. And so now we have a beautiful agrodolce combo. So I'm gonna let that sit and I'm gonna prepare the scallops. As expensive as scallops are, they're just so easy. Like you don't even have to fuss with getting the vein off or anything like that. With shrimp, you don't have to get the skins. You just take your beautiful scallops. I have them here. I don't want them all to fall. And I'm just patting them super duper duper dry. So that way they get a beautiful sear in the pan. A little bit of olive oil on top, a bit of pepper and salt. So I'm just giving them a nice little rub, making sure they're fully coated and all the salt and peppers evenly spread out. And then I'm just going to add them to the pan that's on medium heat right now. I'm gonna give the pan about a minute so we can get a beautiful sear on these scallops. And then you don't have to do this, but I'm probably gonna deglaze the pan a little bit and cook them in a little bit of wine, because when do I not cook with wine? Time for my favorite part. It came together literally 10 freaking minutes. So easy. Once you have the agrodolce in the fridge ready to go, sear off some scallops. So let's taste these delicious agrodolce scallops. The scallops are so sweet and buttery and just melt in your mouth. Didn't overcook them, which I'm very proud of myself for that. And then you have the sweet, citrusy agrodolce with a little kick of vinegar, citrusy goodness. You have a briny, salty olive, chewy, almondy cherry with a toasted, nutty almond. I always zest my oranges and lemons going like down long ways. So I get these big strips of citrus. So I get these big strips of zest. This is so delicious. And like the best way to pair this would be, you can make a whole entire pasta dish with this. You could throw this on top of rice. You could have a little bit of toast and soak up. That would be the best way, is like have a piece of toast with this and soak up all of that extra oil with that bread, like a nice piece of baguette or something like that. You could add this on a bed of some roasted vegetables. You could add it on a bed of greens, some kind of vegetable to really help soak up this oil. And then you're flavoring your vegetables, you're flavoring your protein. As much as I don't want to stop eating this, let's move on to recipe number 2. So to start off, to make these breaded, crispy baked beans, we need breading. So I went the extra mile, and me being Caroline, quick and easy, but also spends 3 hours doing this. You don't have to do this. I dehydrated my own chestnuts to make my own chestnut flour. You can just buy chestnut flour. You don't have to use chestnut flour. You could use, I'm making this gluten-free, so I'm using kind of a nut meal as the breading, but you can use almond flour, pecan flour. You could just take pecans and toast them up. So I roasted these chestnuts and then I broke them apart and put them back in the oven to dehydrate at like 200 degrees Fahrenheit for like 4 hours. About a fourth a cup of chestnuts with a fourth a cup of walnuts, because I feel like walnuts and chestnuts pair really well together. And I'm just gonna blend them up to make a flour. In my high-speed blender, you could also use a food processor. And just to add some more wintertime flavor, I'm gonna go in with 2 large sprigs of rosmarino, some rosemary. I think rosemary and chestnuts go so well together. Rosemary, just in general, is such a hearty herb that if you bake it, like we are gonna make the breading for these nuts, and you bake it, you can still really taste the rosemary. It adds some freshness, some depth. So I'm going in with 2 sprigs of rosemary, some salt, and a big dash of some pepper. So I'm gonna go ahead and just blend this up and make a fine little flour. So I have a beautiful amount of flour, coarse meal of the walnuts and the rosemary and the chestnuts and the salt and the pepper. If you don't want to use nuts, you can use just regular all-purpose flour if you're not gluten-free. If you are gluten-free and you don't want to use nuts, you can use like oat flour would be a really good option. Probably most like neutral tasting flour. So I have some freshly rinsed butter beans, and I'm just gonna throw the whole can in there and give everything a really nice toss. And then I'm gonna go in with about 2 tablespoons of olive oil to this can of beans with all the flour. You can use any beans that you would like, that you have in your pantry. And then you're just gonna lay them flat onto a tray to bake off. The beans, I laid them completely flat on the tray because we're doing kind of like a vegan breaded situation here. They're not like, the breadcrumbs don't like stick, like you can't fully coat the beans in the breadcrumbs. So I just want to pack it in so that way like the breading is packed onto the beans, so then while they bake, the breading adheres to the beans. I'm gonna put this in the oven at 425 and get these beans nice and roasted. So I just pulled the beans out of the oven. All of the breading, that delicious, super nutty chestnut, walnut, rosemary breading, also adds as like little breadcrumbs on top. So you want to let it cool when it comes out of the oven, obviously, because you don't want to burn your mouth, but also because the more it cools, the like crispier everything gets. As we wait for the beans and the breading to cool, I have the perfect pesto, dairy-free, super creamy pesto to go with this. So I use sage, but not so it's so overpowering. I used a little bit of parsley too for just so much herbaceousness, because as you can see, this is a very, very herby dish. And this was inspired for a lot of reasons. One, I always want to make something very dairy-free and gluten-free for you guys. But it was also inspired because I know everyone has cans of beans. I know everyone has some nuts hanging around left over, wanted to use up that fourth bag of whatever nuts are left. I always know that people don't really know what to do with herbs past the 1 or 2 recipes that they bought it for. So this is just a way of, hey, I've got some basil and some parsley, or I got some sage and some parsley, or could even throw cilantro in this and it would be delicious. Like just something so herbaceous to help with something that's canned and dried and not something that's so super fresh. So that's why I took the sage in here, and as well as the parsley. I used walnuts because we used walnuts as a breading kind of situation. So I thought the walnuts go really, really well with the sage too. But you could use hazelnuts, those would be delicious. Almonds, just make sure that they're toasted because you want the most flavor possible, because we're not really cooking this pesto. A little bit of lemon juice, garlic, olive oil, salt, pepper, you know, the other pesto things. And then I added a little bit of extra salt too, because we didn't use any Parmigiano Reggiano, which is super salty. That helps the pesto be salty. Normal Genovese pesto. And then add incredible creaminess, because I thought we need some refreshing, creamy goodness to go with this dish. I used some coconut yogurt, my favorite company of coconut yogurt, because it's so thick. And you can taste a little bit of coconut, but because we have so many flavors going on, it's really subtle. Blend it all together, and it's super, super thick and creamy, and just the perfect pesto. And if you just want to take away from this whole recipe just this pesto, it's great on pasta, it's great on fish, vegetables, literally everything. Again, like I tried to give you guys, if you couldn't tell, a sauce or an oil or something in every single recipe of this video. Sorry, I couldn't resist anymore. Because that's what makes meals so quick and easy, I swear. It's nice and chunky, because I love a chunky pesto. Kind of put it on the plate, make a big pile, and then smear it. and it looks super, super fancy. Some crispy breaded beans right on top here. Absolutely incredible. These chestnut breaded beans with the sage walnut pesto. Creamy, creamy sage walnut pesto. Gluten-free, dairy-free, packed with protein, crunchy, creamy, garlicky, herby, nutty. You have to try these. Even if you're not dairy-free or gluten-free, take a day to just try something different. There's pesto. I'm gonna finish this plate because I can't resist it. And we're gonna move on to recipe number 3. Moving on to recipe number 3, I wanna give you a flavor bomb sauce. That's what makes meals so easy, is having so much flavor ready to go, to use, to cook with, and so on. A really, really fun thing that I did is I made an infused oil. I've done this a lot of different infused oils, and this is a saffron oil. And with this saffron oil, I warmed up some olive oil over low, because you don't ever want to burn olive oil. I warmed it over low, and when I dropped in a few droplets of water, kind of sizzled a little bit, so I knew it was ready. And then to a bowl, I added crushed saffron to help infuse the saffron, because you want to crush it to get most of that flavor out of that saffron, those saffron threads. A bunch of spices that really, really complemented each other for this beautiful ginger saffron oil. So it's ginger, cumin, cardamom, coriander. So now you have this beautiful oil, and you could add tahini to it, and then you have a saffron ginger tahini dressing. You could add like a yogurt to it and make like a yogurty saffron ginger dressing or sauce. And you could add this over on top of pasta. You can add it on top of fish, on top of any of your favorite things. And because it's such a hearty oil now that's infused with so much flavor, I marinated some sweet potatoes, kind of like little strips of them, in this oil, this beautiful, beautiful oil. Because sweet potatoes are such a hearty vegetable, you can keep them kind of in this bag for 2 to 3 days in this oil, so that way you have them ready to just add them to a pan and cook them off when you want, because they like won't oxidize or go bad once they've been cut. Because we're still in winter, you could do butternut squashes, you could do turnips, parsnips. So I have my sweet potato wedges evenly spread out on the tray, and then the protein for this meal. I have some halloumi here. You can use halloumi, paneer, you can even use like feta if you wanted to. It wouldn't work perfectly the same, but I just have it shaped and cut about the same size, as a little bit smaller than these sweet potatoes. And so once these sweet potatoes are halfway done, I'm gonna also add in the halloumi all over the pan and kind of get it searing too. So you have a same tray baking with all the ingredients that you need. And then once everything's ready, we'll pull it together for your meal. So I'm gonna give these sweet potatoes about 10 minutes in the oven and toss them and add in the delicious, delicious halloumi. Can I steal a piece? Cheese is the best thing ever. Cheese is so good. I just pulled the sweet potatoes from the oven and gave them a beautiful toss. They taste so delicious. And now with any empty space, I'm just going in with the halloumi. So we have the cheese all spread out, and now I'm gonna pop it back into the oven for about 10 more minutes. So it's time to pull the third and final recipe all together. It's literally so dark outside. So anyways, I have the oil here. Give it a nice stir, because sometimes the spices are so heavy. This is a horrible container that I put it in, by the way. I should not have done that. The spices are so heavy, they'll sink to the bottom and even start sticking to the bottom. And it's such a beautiful oil. You can see all the spices throughout the oil, which I really, really love. I'm gonna go in with some greens. You wanna go for something dark and leafy. So kale, arugula, watercress, spring mix. Like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, spinach is packed full of protein, believe it or not, as well as an incredible amount of nutrients. And as an anemic gal, I love my spinach. And that oil is so toasty and spicy. It brings a whole nother level to the spinach. It like literally just amps up the flavors so much, and it makes salads so like pleasant. Roasted sweet potatoes and seared off halloumi to the mix, and just kind of add them all over. And then the last few things, I cannot make a salad without something sweet in it. I don't know, just some dried fruit, fresh fruit, and 'tis the season for some beautiful gorgeous pomegranates. So I'm just gonna sprinkle them. They're already ready in bite size and perfect to add to any salad or dish. And then I have some roasted salted pistachios. Gonna sprinkle those right on top. And lastly, a few sprigs of mint. I love putting herbs in every single dish, and almost every single dish. And I'm just gonna tear some mint and put it on top. It just brings some freshness, some just everything good. Like, just herbs are so needed in everything. So I'm just adding a few sprigs, tear them. So I'm just gonna tear a few leaves, add them all over. And then you have a delicious, quick and easy 10-minute roasted, super cozy, packed full of flavor, so satisfying with the cheese and the delicious meaty sweet potatoes. And then all of those spices to make it feel like you're almost like not even eating a salad, because it's just so much flavor that you normally don't get to taste in salads. Like, salads are incredible. They just need flavor. I saved the best for last. I'm so excited to try this. You guys know how much I love cheese, and fried cheese in a salad with sweet potatoes. Crispy sweet potatoes. The ginger, the saffron, that salty brine cheese. Delicious. Extra oil to go on the greens with a burst of sweet pomegranate, crunchy pistachios, some mint for some refreshing goodness. You have to make this. Even if you just make the oil and use the oil on a bunch of different things, it's the perfect combination of goodness. So, so good. I think this is gonna be my salad all winter long. Change up the sweet potatoes every time to a different vegetable. So good. Such a delicious meal. You have to try these recipes. I hope you do. If you enjoyed this video, if you plan on trying any of these recipes, please, please, please let me know in the comments below. I love talking to you guys in my comments. It makes my day to hear from you. To read your comments literally just gives me so much joy. I really, really, really hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so, so, so much for watching. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for everything. It means the absolute world to me. And until next time, I hope you create a very, very zestful day. Ciao.